What if something you said to another person could change the entire course of their life? I had that opportunity to do that one time. I met a guy that was stuck in the mud, being bullied by his coworkers, belittled, disrespected. It was amazing how he was being treated. But after a few conversations, I convinced him to take a different path. And the path that he took changed his entire future for the better. I took a job with the company, and during my walkthrough or my introduction to the people and the processes, a guy took me into this room and he introduced me to a couple of people. But when he did that, I noticed this guy sitting back in the corner. And what I noticed about him was this. He was sitting back in the corner and had been eating sweet cakes. He looked to be like about 100 pounds overweight or something like that. His personal grooming didn't seem to be up to power. Just not impressive at all. And so as I finished the tour, I go up to my office and I keep thinking about this guy. Why did they not introduce me to him? So I go back down. I walk up to him and I say, hey, I said, my name's Rob. And he said, oh, good to meet you. I'm Vic. So I said, I don't know why they didn't introduce me. They must not have seen you sitting over here. And he says, no, it happens all the time. And that kind of set me back like, well, what exactly did he mean by that? So we chatted for a couple of minutes and I went on about my business. What I noticed in the next few days was he was actually being bullied and made fun of by his coworkers. He was the butt of all the jokes. They would even say, WWW, what would Vic do? When they was joking about something. And I thought, that just didn't sit well with me. So what I did, I started talking to him from time to time. And what I found out was he had a 2-year college degree from a community college in printing technology. He was kind of a smart guy. Now, when I was talking to the other people, I would interject his name into the conversation, and they would immediately start making fun of him. And so I asked him one time in front of everybody, I said, how come everybody makes fun of him? Kind of caught him off guard, and they didn't say much about that. At lunchtime, when we had lunch, I would go into the break room because where this place was, there was nothing to do on lunch. I would go into the break room and I would make it a point to sit by him and talk to him. Along with that, when people started talking around us, I would drag him into the conversation by saying, well, what do you think about that, Vic? Or what are you going to do when you get off of work, Vic? Just something to get him talking in front of these people. So I did that for a while. And I noticed that the bullying and the making fun of him was slowing down dramatically because I was guiding that conversation in a different direction. I'm not one to let people be bullied. I don't believe in that. I think it's a bad behavior and shame on the people that do that. Anyway, a few of us started walking at lunch because around that area there was absolutely nothing to do and you got an hour for lunch. So I decided to see if a couple of people just wanted to walk during lunch just for the exercise. And so what we would do is we would take off and we would walk a route around town just so we could get back allow us 15 minutes to get straightened up before we went back to work. So it was a 45-minute walk. So I noticed Vic started coming in my office or my work area, kind of talking. He wasn't too talkative. He just might have a question or something like that. So him and I started talking more and more and more. And the subject of lunch came up. Now Victor was probably, I think he was a good 100 pounds overweight. So we started talking about diet, this, that, and the other, and I kind of jokingly said, you looking to lose a little weight there, brother? He said, that wouldn't hurt. I found out that his father had died of a heart attack at a young age, I think 42 or something like that. And Vic lived with his mom and his two sisters, and they was kind of overweight also. Well, we kept those conversations going on, and one day I said, there's a group of us that walk at lunchtime. And you're welcome to join us if you want to. He said, I don't know that I could keep up. I said, well, we're not speed walking. We're just out there casually walking. Now, the people I walked with, I don't like to use the word popular, but they was a couple of the more known or popular people in that company. So Victor decided to walk with us. So we take off. And what he realized was how welcoming these people were. They treated him nice. And we slowed the pace down so he could keep up. And as time went by, keeping up wasn't that big of a problem. He kept up well. So he found that I taught a free martial art class at this church as an outreach program. So he inquired about that. He said, I hear you teach a free karate class over at this church. I said, I do. He said, I've never seen one of those. I said, well, you're welcome to come over and see it anytime you want to. And he says, I think I might. Now, what do you think? Do you think that I'm handling this situation at a pace where he can adapt to it, or am I pushing him too fast? Let me know in the comments. One night we're over there and we're working out, and lo and behold, in he walks. Takes a seat in the back, and when there was about 50 people out there, and we're all working hard and having a good time and putting out a lot of energy. After the class was about an hour and a half long. After the class, he just disappeared. And I thought, I wonder where he went. So I just cast it off. The next day at work, I didn't see him in the morning. Actually, I didn't see him at lunch. He come by in the afternoon, stuck his head in the place where I was working. He said, you got a minute? I said, sure do. So he come in there. I didn't bring this subject up. He did. Now he's about to make a decision. Let me know if you know exactly at what point he makes this decision. So he started talking. He says, I seen that class last night. He said, and something just isn't sitting with me right. I said, well, what is that? He said, it seems so violent. Now, anybody that knows me knows I am far from violent. I just don't participate in violence. I said, well, I said, maybe you're just taking it the wrong way. I said, what you've seen was a group of people practicing hard at something that they want to learn. And they was putting out a lot of energy. And what you did not see is you didn't see anybody hurting each other, did you? No, he said. I said, did you see anybody disrespecting each other? No. I said, was everybody nice to each other? Yes. Well, what was we talking about during the class? He said, just different behaviors. Yeah. Self-discipline, self-respect, morals, values. That's what we talk about, because that's what we're trying to learn. We're trying to learn to be better people. And the physical part is just to exercise our bodies. But it's a defense, but it's not teaching people how to fight or be aggressive. And he said, well, and I went on and explained it a little bit deeper than that for him. And he said, well, I never did look at it that way. And I said, well, that's the intention of it. I said, believe me, they're not mean people over there, and we're not doing anybody harm over there, beating each other up and stuff like that. He said, okay. So he comes back later in that day, He opens the door and he says, "Rob?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to do that." Now, that's what he said. "I'm going to do that." Now, he didn't guess. He didn't wonder. He didn't say, "Try," or "I might." He had decided, "I am going to do that." And that is the decision that you're going to be surprised to hear how it changed his life. You're going to be shocked. So he started, and it was slow going. And I told him, you got to be patient with yourself. Now, because he's changed his diet and he's walking at lunch, and now he's doing this, he's losing weight, and people's taking notice. Victor is getting in shape, and he loved it. He loved the social aspects of it because people was more accepting of him. They listened to him more. He engaged in the conversations more. He was changing. He was changing. What that decision did, it actually flipped the script that he was living, or it flipped the switch, made him change in a positive way. He kept going, and I told him, I said, in order to make a black belt, and this is a few years. This is a few years. I'm kind of going through what we did in a few years. He was attending class. He was really getting in shape, and actually, me and a couple of people actually got to be friendly with him, and he started going canoeing with us. He started going skiing with us, and he would go fishing with us at night. All the activities that we did outside of the school and outside of work, he would join in, and he was actually pleasant to be around. So his whole demeanor changed. He just like coming out kind of a thing, in a positive way. I mean, it's a whole different person. I look back the way I first saw him in that room, and then look at him now, and it's completely two different people. Amazing. Over one decision. One decision. Let me ask you this. During your lifetime, have you ever been around? Have you ever encouraged someone? Have you ever helped them make a decision, make a change for the better in their life? And if you have, you can understand how I felt by seeing this. Not just me, but everybody that was around him. He became one of the group, so to speak. Yeah, it was good. As time went by, I told him, I said, look, to get the black belt, you got to be within 10 pounds of your proper weight. And you know what? He did that. I was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I used to show people before and after pictures. It was amazing. He ended up taking his black belt test, and he passed. He did great. I have never been more proud of a person than I was him, because of that one decision and the changes he went through. I know I'm going on and on and on about this decision, but I'm telling you, this is how important it is. And I'm proud that I influenced him in making that decision. I really am. As time goes by and life happens, I had left that company, and him and I we just didn't see. It started gradually. We didn't see each other as often because I didn't work there. And then later I found out that he had left there. So that we kind of drifted apart. And eventually we kind of lost contact with each other, which a lot of people do. So this is what's amazing. I'm sitting at a restaurant, me and my wife. I look up and I see him. And I never forget his face. I get up, I tell my wife, I said, I see somebody that I know. I get up and I walk towards him, and his face lit up. And he stands up. Now he's sitting there with a woman and two kids. Now thinking back to that room, I would have never thought that he had got married. See, I just wouldn't have. But anyway, he's sitting there with a woman and 2 kids. Stands up, he says, man, he said, it is good to see you. He said, let me introduce you to my wife and my grandkids. You could have knocked me over with a feather, but I was excited. It was a good thing. We chatted for a while, and I'm in this state of amazement how things turned out for him. I couldn't be prouder of someone. And then as our wives were chatting, he turns to me and he says, look, he said, Rob, he said, I want to thank you for what you did for me back then. He said, it changed my entire life. And my reply was, Vic, it's just what I do. If I see potential in someone, I try to push them forward. It's just in my DNA. And you did great. It looks like you did great. I want to ask you this. Did you ever think that something that you would say to someone that helped them make a decision would lead to such a change? If you do, leave it in the comments. And if you have a story like that, leave it in the comments also. I'd be interested in hearing it. And as far as Vic goes, man, good for him. He's doing great. Now, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it. Remember, be good to your body, do what you say, and everybody can be nice.